Welcome back to the Heart of Connection, where we explore the essential elements of healthy relationships, communication, and personal growth. I'm your host, and today we're diving into one of the most fundamental yet elusive aspects of human connection: trust. Trust. It's a word we hear often, and something we know is at the core of every meaningful relationship. But have you ever stopped to think about what trust really means? Why it's so crucial, and why when things go wrong in our relationships, we rarely point the finger at a lack of trust? Well, today, we're going to unpack that. Let's start with something simple. We all know intuitively that trust is a foundation of any relationship. Without it, things fall apart. Whether it's a friendship, a romantic partnership, or even a professional connection, when trust is shaken, everything seems to unravel. But when things go wrong in relationships, what do we tend to do? We point the finger at the other person, don't we? We blame them for their flaws, their mistakes, their misjudgments, or their behavior. But how often do we really reflect on the role that trust, or the lack of it, played in the breakdown? We often fail to recognize that, at its core, what we're really dealing with is a deficit in trust. So, why is that? Trust goes deep. It's not something we can just point to like a problem on the surface. Trust is rooted in vulnerability, and vulnerability is a dangerous thing. To trust is to open yourself up, to expose your true thoughts and fears. And when we do that, we're allowing someone else to see our weaknesses, our insecurities, and our fears. That's powerful, and also potentially dangerous. When we are vulnerable with someone who may not have our best interests at heart, like someone who might use our weaknesses against us, that's when trust can feel like a risk. After all, our survival instincts tell us to protect ourselves, not to reveal our most sensitive parts. And when we do trust someone, it's not without fear. The first step in trust, then, is deciding whether or not we can trust someone. This decision isn't something that happens overnight. It's a process, and it requires discernment. We must ask ourselves, is this person trustworthy? Are they someone who will honor the vulnerability we share with them? Trust isn't something that is given freely. It must be earned. And once we make that decision to trust, we can't just rest on our laurels. Trust is hard work. It's not a one-time thing. It's something we must nurture and build every single day. Trust is earned through consistent actions. We show the other person that we are worthy of their trust through our own behaviors, through our words, our reliability, our transparency, and our ability to follow through on commitments. But here's the catch. Trust is a two-way street. It's not enough just to trust the other person. We must trust ourselves as well. Trusting ourselves means we have to be confident in our own judgments, in our ability to choose the right people, and in our ability to handle what comes when we do take the leap of trust. And yes, sometimes things get tested. Life happens. People slip up. We slip up. It's in those moments when trust feels strained or broken that the real work begins. We have to be brave enough to face the vulnerability again and say, let's talk about this. Let's work through this together. Communication is the cornerstone of rebuilding and maintaining trust. It's not enough to let things fester. We need to speak up, express our feelings, and listen to the other person. Sometimes that means compromising. Other times it means agreeing to disagree. But in every case, it means staying committed to the relationship and to the trust that you've both worked so hard to build. Think about trust like a bank account. Every day you make deposits or withdrawals based on your actions and words. Small gestures of kindness, keeping your promises, being reliable, those are deposits. A harsh word, breaking a commitment, betraying confidence, those are withdrawals. And when you make too many withdrawals without making enough deposits, that account runs dry. And when that happens, trust becomes harder to restore. By sharing our vision of the future, by appreciating each other's contributions, and by supporting each other through life's challenges, trust isn't about big moments. It's about the daily, consistent efforts to show up for each other, to be open, and to be real. And we can't take it for granted. Trust requires attention, care, and patience. It's an ongoing process. If we're not vigilant, we can easily fall into habits that erode trust without even realizing it. To wrap up today's episode, I want to leave you with this. Trust is not a one-time decision. It's a continuous daily choice. We choose to trust, we choose to be trustworthy, and we choose to communicate openly and vulnerably. But above all, we choose to trust ourselves, our instincts, our judgment, and our ability to navigate the complexities of relationships. So, take a moment today. Reflect on the relationships that matter most to you. Ask yourself, how can I nurture trust in these connections? How can I be more vulnerable, more open, more consistent, and most importantly, how can I trust myself in this process? Trust is the foundation of all relationships. Let's make sure we're building on that foundation every day. Thank you for listening to the Heart of Connection. Until next time, stay connected, stay vulnerable, and keep building trust.